And hi everyone, welcome to eLearn Chat Management Consulting Tips 101. I'm Rick Zanotti, and today we're going to talk a little bit about learning experience and emotion. And we are back. There's a lot of talk right now in the industry about learning experience, which is really not much more than repackaging concepts already out there that have been there forever, really, in many, many which cases. So what is learning experience? We don't care right now. What we care about is emotion. Everybody says, is content king? Or is it context that's king? And I say emotion is king. Content and context are slaves to emotion. Emotion is very powerful in our lives. And when you teach something, if you've got emotion, then there's a good chance you will resonate with your users. So if you're running an e-learning department or a training and development department, L&D, whatever you want to call it, and you're trying to get training out there that makes sense to your clientele, in other words, the users within your corporation. If you're not reaching them at a personal level, something that emotionally triggers in them a response of, oh, I'm interested in that. That applies to what I do. That makes me feel good. I get it. I relate to that. If you're not doing that, then the training is academic at best. For example, if you ask a salesperson, let's say a used car salesman or any car salesman, who are the worst clients you could have? They'll almost always tell you, engineers and doctors. Why? Because they don't care about the emotion. They want to know facts. They want to know specs. What are the specifications of this car? How many cylinders? How fast does it go? How much oil does it need? How much this? How much that? And the car salesman says, you'll look sexy in this car. They go, I don't care. How many cylinders? You're trying to sell something that's emotional to someone that is not emotional, someone that wants facts. If you're dealing with customer service, you're dealing with a more emotional individual, for example. Or if you're teaching compliance, you're dealing with subjects that could have emotional issues attached to the compliance. For example, sexual harassment. You could definitely attach emotion to some of the things that could happen if someone is being abused sexually, as with almost all compliance methods. Emotion is key, and emotion is almost always completely ignored in training. Why? Because it's run by the wrong people. Or you've got HR departments who say, no, we can't talk about that. We don't want emotion, none of this. But if you don't have any emotion, you have no valuable training. You've got to relate to what people want to hear, see, learn. They won't learn something that means nothing to them. That's the context part of it. If it's out of context, it doesn't make sense to the person. If the content is badly written, it definitely won't make sense to the person. But if the context and content have no emotion attached to it, any trigger that says, I've been there, I felt that, I've done that, it happened to me, then the training won't really be that effective. What are you trying to accomplish in an L&D or T&D or whatever you want to call it department? You're trying to accomplish learning and performance. If you're teaching people but they're not performing better, you failed. It's that simple. You failed. If you're teaching a subject that is hard to teach, you've got to find something that gets through to the individual learning, that makes them feel something. There's a lot of emotions out there, tons. You can feel a lot of different things. And what you're trying to develop, which we call part of that learning experience, you can't have a learning experience without emotion or any kind of emotion. It doesn't have to be a hard, bring them down to tears emotion. No, it doesn't have to be that bad. But it has to be an emotion that makes sense to that individual. And every individual is different. So when you're writing things or when you're acting out things, when you're putting together training, you've got to find commonality, common ground somewhere to make what they're learning trigger something. In this case, a memory, a feeling, an attitude, something that makes that person say, I get it. Ah, I've been there. Oh, that makes so much sense to me. Now you've got their attention. Once you have their attention, the rest is pretty academic. It's simple. You continue keeping their attention and explaining things in a way that they feel makes a lot of sense. And that's really what it is. Context and content are slaves to their master, and the master is emotion. Think about that. Don't just accept what I say. Think about it, apply it, try it. You'll find that if you can put any kind of emotion into training, you'll be a lot further along. I've talked about emotion at trade shows and at conferences many, many times. And usually we have very good discussions about emotion, how to get emotion out of people, how to make things relevant to an individual, even when it's a group activity or even when you've got 100 or 1,000 people you need to train. Find common ground. That's the only way you're going to get an emotional response or trigger out of people that do the same kind of work. Once you get that emotion, there's a really good chance you'll have retention. Emotion, retention. They're tied together. They really are. Content, context, yeah, they're important. But without emotion, you won't have retention. You won't have performance improvements. You may think you have, but until you can justify that and measure those performance improvements, you don't know. But when you get emotion in the mix, 99% chance you'll have retention. Why do you think TV shows play music for certain things? And that's, by the way, music is hardly used in e-learning, and that's really a shame. Because the music can set a mood. It can set something. It gets people, the music just got slow and deep, and what's going to happen? You're creating anxiety. You're creating something. Or the music's chirpy, fast, nice, good beat. And it's making people kind of engaged in it. You're kind of going with the music. Music can really help. It can really enhance emotion because it strikes a chord. Any emotion will strike a chord in our souls and our being, our psyche, whatever you want to call it. Anyway, here's a question for you. Who's the master of them all in training? Is it emotion, content, or context? 5 more seconds. If you answered emotion, you're right. And that means you've been paying attention. If not, oh well. Listen to this again. I'm Rick Zanotti for Relate Corporation. That's why we call it Relate. We like relating to things. It's important. We'll see you next time on Management Consulting Tips 101 for eLearn Chat. Have a good one, everyone. And remember, if you don't put any emotion into it, nobody's going to remember.